What's up, guys? All right, so I tried to fix the lag. The video quality's not as good, unfortunately, but the same things are still in it, same content. But actually being able to keep up is something I think is more important. Key levels, being able to see that. So for today's video, I'm just going to go through, a live watch list creation. I haven't looked at any flow, any levels, anything like that. So of course, the first place I start, always unusual whales, hot chains, and tickers. Um, what really helps with unusual whales is being able to narrow down this list of potential tickers we see all over the place. And it also provides this volume, as we can see. So first thing, I'm just going to hide this index ETF. So the thing that sticks out to me right away, Neo's high up here, and it's had a little cool off day yesterday after a big move. They also announced earlier that their deliveries are up, so I'm gonna, look into Neo. It's also one for small accounts I really like playing daily. As we can see here, it looks like it's flagging all right as well. I'm gonna go here to the breakdown and look through some things. So these 1231s, 33 are getting hit. 33 calling the 17s up to the 35. I like that, as well as this 3031 put on the 17. So I'm gonna keep Neo in mind for sure. And that is one I'll keep in mind. Secondly, chips are up here, cool. That's something cool. Baba's up here again. I'm gonna look into Baba. We had that big breakout day. A little bit of a pullback, possible retest. So I'm gonna look and see what this flow is looking like. And as we can see, 1231s are getting hit. But this 17130 call really sparks my attention. Why? Because that's $12 out of the money. It's the highest leading for next week in terms of chains, in terms of calls. So that's something cool. I like to see there, these 17, 125s are getting hit as well as some puts here. But it looks like more for this week. We're pretty optimistic, pretty bullish. I'm going to keep Baba in mind as well. When looking into flow, the things that I look for that really stick out, really help me narrow down a list are these high OTM, high volume OTM calls or puts that have close days till expiration, right? That just means, they can act as a possible magnet for a big move in either direction. And that's something I really like there. Facebook's another one I like to play. See what we're looking like here. It definitely fell off a cliff at the end. So I'm going to see, what this is looking like. 1231, 17345 call, 350 up to 360. All right, I'm going to keep Facebook in mind too. We're getting hits all the way up to this 370 call. It looks like the puts aren't really getting hit in the next week, but they were definitely hit very hard. So we could get a possible bounce reversal, it looks like here. I'm going to keep that in mind. Another one, I'm going to look into PFE here on the flow. I don't know exactly if there's anything crazy, but let's see, 1231, 1760 call. Nothing too crazy OTM here. So that's something I noticed, there's nothing too crazy going on here out of the money. So I don't expect that move to be too crazy big. So I'm not going to put PFE in there. But as of right now, we have Neo, Baba, Facebook to all look into as of right now. I'm going to hide this again. Let's see. CCL has definitely been, I'm going to look into Sofi. Sofi is another one of those smaller account plays I like a lot. Usually not crazy movement types, but the contracts can see big moves on those little movements. So here it looks like, it's more of a long-term type play for most people going out here. But we also have these 17, 17, 16 calls really spark my interest. 1231, 15.5 puts, which were last week. But it looks like, it's pretty bullish in terms of next week and beyond. But I do think we can get retest here about down to this 15.3 level. So I'm gonna keep SoFi in mind as well. Go back here. DKNG, one of my favorites. PLTR, Moderna, BA. None of these. This is the one I really want to look into. MU, is testing levels we haven't seen in 20 years, right? So I want to look at this flow, anything that's kind of crazy sticking out. So yeah, these 1231 calls are still getting hit pretty hard. 1-7-100 calls leading the way in terms of the 1-7s, which are next week with the 93 put as well. I'm definitely going to look into MU. Another thing I look at are these OI increases, right? And one thing I noticed here is this OI increase on these 105 calls and even the 100 calls are, 60%, 12%. Those are pretty good moves, as well as it looks like these puts here could be used, as hedging. Those are pretty bullish puts above levels for 121. So I'm gonna look into MU for sure. Go back to the hot chains of tickers, see if there's any others. Actually, when looking at that, plug was one that stood out. Plug is usually, down further on this list, but it's very bullish here. 102,000 call volumes way up. So I'm gonna break this down. Let's look what we got here. So it looks like, these are more long-term plays right now. It does look like it could be consolidating at 30 levels. Definitely a massive level on plug. 1-7-29 calls are getting hits. 1-7-30 calls definitely getting some hits. So this one looks like it's going to maybe move a little bit slower, but we have calls getting hit up to getting hit up to 31 on this 1-7. So plug's definitely going to be one of those I look into as well. So just based off this flow, I have some plays broken down, and I have 5 to 7 right now. But I'm gonna use these key levels in my chart to then break this down further. And so right now, we got plug, MU, Baba, Facebook, Neo, and SoFi. So I'm gonna look into those. And if we go back and look, I usually stay away from the Teslas, the AMDs, the Nvidias at the beginning of the week, just because their call premiums are a little bit different sometimes. Also going to look into Roblox. This had a pretty good day the other day. Let's see, Friday, and it's also one of those those Pelosi ones. She did invest in Roblox. So 105 calls getting hit. 110 calls getting hit. But you see, those are 155 to 163 bid-ask spread right now, and it finished at 103. So I think we can get better movements out of some other stocks with lower bid-ask. So I'm not going to include Roblox here. Now I'm going to head over to my charts and break this down further, narrow it down further to get those 3 to 5 plays to really key in on. Now that I've looked over that flow, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna throw these possible tickers up here on this watch list on the side, and then eventually narrow these down so that I have those 3 to 5 I really want to key in on. Let's see, what other ones do we have? Facebook, of course, and plug. And one thing with this, like, I'm pretty quick about flow nowadays, just because I've been doing it for so long. I've started to master this method of looking through flow, interpreting the flow, and just really getting into that. So it takes time and practice. Same thing with levels. It takes time and practice. So far, we have these 6 tickers over here, and I want to narrow this down to 3 to 5. Always will put out those 3 bigger account plays with those 2 smaller account plays, just because I think smaller accounts, it's often hard to start, especially those Monday through Wednesday, not being able to play some plays because of the strike prices and stuff like that. So first thing I'm going to do, the daily, I'm going to use MU first, go over this, how I got my levels, stuff like that. So what I notice here, first thing, high, about 93,
low 93, high about 94.5. So $1.50. About looking for about 20 to 30 cents from our closing price to look for those key levels, an area to look for. So on this, I want the hourly first. I'm gonna go over this hourly. I have traded it before, look at these levels up here earlier. But first thing I notice here on the hourly is this low here about 92.75, and that's about 30 to 40 cents away from our closing price. Cool. I like that on the upside, or on the downside. On the upside, we see things here. I am noticing these 94.5 area for ultimately falling off. So that's something I'm going to notice there. I'm going to go to 15, break it down further, and look for that call trigger. So on the 15, let's see, zoom out this a little bit. On the 15, we have that 94.4 VP or POC on the VPA. But this candle here, ultimately before it fell off, hit that 94.5 level, which was also a support before a bounce here and twice here, as well as before it fell off here. So I know that 94.5 is a big level. For the call side, I really like that there. We also see on the VPA that above this level there's a lot less congestion, so I like that as well. Now when it comes to setting price targets, first thing I notice are these levels down here. Don't really have too much in terms of VPA on the side, but I like this 92.25 area for my first target, simply because it's a psych level, but it also has bounced off multiple times there. As you can see, it's not a crazy level on our VPA, but it helps a lot. Underneath, I think we at least see 92.25, but under that 92.25, we don't have much until down here around this 91 level, which we can also see here on the VPA. So I'm gonna put this in here, about 91 for my second target. And then on the upside, once we do break and close above that level of 94.5, the next level I notice is right up here about 94.95. It's acted as resistance here, support here, and then again as both resistance and support here. So I like that. Above that, I like it up to about this level here, about 95.5. Let's see this coordinates 95.5. So I have these scaling levels set, right, and they're just support and resistance levels. If you notice this zone here, tests, bounces, resistance, support again, and then resistance again. So I like those levels once we get over.
So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to break down BABA. I always start on the daily chart. Why? Because I want to get, kind of a general consensus of what's going on and where we're at, as well as be able to, find the daily range and look for where I should look for these key levels. The 20 to 25% method, it just gives me a general basis of where exactly to look when looking for a key level, because we don't want to miss the move too much, but we also don't want to get in way too far ahead. So when I calculate that, I'm just going to use this daily, let's see, high to low. Let's see, it's about 122 to 118, about a $4 move. So I'm going to calculate, 20% of that. What's that? 80 cents each side. Another thing I notice here is we have this inside day on BABA after a very big ripper day. And then I also noticed this VPA profile, over 124. There's not too much significance really until this 140 area, but really up to 150. So this could be a big play, especially to the upside, but we also could get a retest here on the downside. First, I'm going to go over this hourly. Always start with the hourly. Some things that I notice here. We definitely have support, a lot of support, it looks like, down towards 118.6 and stuff like that. So that's something cool to see. And then above, it looks like 120.4, 120.5 is going to be a big area um, on the upside. So break this down further to the 15-minute chart. All right, on the 15, I noticed this right here, 120.75, right? Multiple times here, and then it tests here before ultimate falling off. So what's the 120? So it looks like 120.6, 120. I'm gonna put 120.7 as my call trigger to the upside because I think it's tested this multiple times really before ultimately falling off. Put this in blue. Before ultimately falling off, and when we think about that 80 to about $1 each side, our closing price here 118.79. That's about $2 up, but I'm okay with that earlier in the week, especially with a ticker that has moved this much. So I like that. 120.7 above. I think we can see these 121 point, what's this, 0.7. Okay, that's going to be my first target on the upside. Move this over here, 121.7. Yep, I like that. So what I do with, when I'm looking at these yellow lines, which are just price targets or scaling areas, it's just the next big resistance and support. One thing we should remember, support always turns resistance and resistance always turns into support. So looking at those areas is something really, really big that can help us when thinking about scaling and such. Another thing I noticed over here, this level, 122.6 has acted as both resistance and support here. We also can look at this VPA over here. It's a little bit bigger than all these areas right here, and then on the downside to about right here. Let's see, then on the downside, there's definitely this area here, about 117.2, 117.5 is a big area. So my put trigger, I'm going to put that 117.5, a big psych level as well. Move this blue. It's about $1 or so off, which I like a lot in terms of being able to play both sides. It's something really cool. But underneath that, the next level I really notice is about 116.8. So that's a good move either direction. And we also can see this with our VPA over here on the side, is it's confirmed that. And then underneath that, I don't really see too much until about 115.6. There's a little bit here on 116, big psych level, but mostly I notice, those two levels, 115.6, I'm going to put 115.65, I'm going to put there for a second price target on BABA. Next is Sofi. So when looking at Sofi, let's go over this daily first. On the daily, about the same thing. Kind of a weird, looks like we're trapped in this range between 25 and 13.75, 14 area. Cool. One thing I do notice is sellers stepped in very fast at that 16.5 level. So if we can get over that, we can get a good move here on the daily to about 17. Cool. Let's head over to this hourly. All right, cool. On the downside, ooh, yeah. So that 15.55 level is big, but ultimately I want to get underneath these two levels here in the hourly. And I'm going to put it about here, about 15.4 for a downside trigger on Sofi. So that's something cool. I don't really like the setup of this too much in terms of general just like over under downside possibility, but it could play. I'm gonna look at plug as well right now on the hourly. One day, let's see. On the daily, we have this inside day here on plug. So I'm gonna take Sofi off. I like the movements of these a lot more, but for plug, I like this inside day because it shows that no one's really in control. And also, there's a big support this needs to hold here on plug, or it could fall all the way down to this 25 level again. Cool. So I like that a lot. I'm gonna hop over to this hourly, break it down, try to get some triggers. Oh gosh. Okay. This one's definitely gonna have a lot of congestion, right? One thing I noticed is, this 29 level is definitely big, but I'm definitely gonna need to use this 15-minute in order to really get some good levels here. And we got a lot of congestion. All right. So for the call trigger, I like 28.95. Why? I noticed the big move over here on the left hand side, that big old 15-minute engulf bullish candle is stopped there, and then it's used multiple times for support, but it's retested here and here as well, before ultimately falling off. So I like that for a call trigger. And then for the put trigger, this level right here really, really sticks out. Was this 27.95? Cool, I like that as well. Underneath, I think for when we get to setting some targets, underneath, I think we for sure test this 27.75, another psych level. And then even further down, we could go to 27.4, and ultimately the big support down here about 27.3 area. Cool. On the upside, another thing we notice, we have this POC here on the 15 way down here. But on the upside, this is going to take some time. But I do notice that's a big old level here. 29.2. Perfect. And then over that, this 29.6, 29.5 is going to be a big level. But it's going to take a little bit of time, it looks like, on the upside to try and get through these levels. But if we can base over this 29.4 level, I think we can really take off. And a reason I use psych levels, right, is because oftentimes they make for bigger support and resistance. So all of my call and put triggers are usually, the 0.5s, the 0.05s, the 0.1s, instead of these 0.04, 0.03, 0.07, stuff like that, just because they usually act as a bigger barrier, both physically, I don't know what I'm talking about, both, mentally and just from a psychic level. And then last two, we got Neo. All right, so let's see here. Neo is one I've been trading a lot recently because it has had those big moves, which are cool. Another inside day here on Neo with the top here. 33.10 was my ultimate call trigger from the other day. It was rejected nicely to play puts. We're going to look at the hourly. Hold up, I need to see a daily range here. All right, for my daily range, high to low, that's about $1. So, Neo moves about $1, $1.50 every day. This is definitely an outlier, a big reversal signal here. So I'm going to use about $1.50, which is about 30 cents each side. Go to the hourly. We closed here. Yeah. All right, so 31.2 is definitely going to be my put trigger for today. There, 31. I'm going to remove this. 33.10 is definitely a nice one on the upside. If we can break these levels here, it looks like. So I want about 30 cents, right? So I'm going to use this. Let's see what are the higher. I'm going to use 32.3 on the upside as my call trigger, with this 33.10 definitely a big level, and definitely one, if we can get over, we can make some big moves. So I'm gonna use that. Wrong one. I'm gonna use this as a potential target. Cool. What's this hour? Let's break this down on the 15 as well. See some levels that are big. Yep. So right away notice that level's big, in terms of a target on the downside. I like this 30.7 area. Looks like, one thing we also noticed is there was not much consolidation on this move with Neo. So that's something that's really, really going to come into play, because the downside in this case is going to be bigger, but there's also a lot of strength. So we can play either way. on Neo. That's something I like in all of my plays. And the reason I like this, this 32.3 I really like for a call trigger. Tested here once, two, three times. It's acted as support and then a resistance again. So I really like that 32.3 level for a move up to about 32.5 before hopefully testing that 33.10. Over the 33.10, we have room to 35, 36, 37, maybe 40 in a couple weeks, which is cool to see as well. And then my last one, Facebook. Facebook is one of those stocks, I trade almost daily. I like how it moves. So that's something cool. All right. So on Facebook, one thing I'm noticing right away on this 15 is underneath this level here, about 35 to 34.60. I think 34.65 is going to be my put trigger. Facebook moves a good bit on the daily, so I like that down there, even though it's a pretty big number or a pretty high thing. But I'm gonna keep these price targets down here. Previous levels I've traded, 33.5, 31.94 is possible. Whatchamacallit? Possible. Why can't I talk? Possible price targets. And then I do like this 340 big psych level as a call trigger. Over that, I think we test this 341.75 ultimately, because it's going to be a bigger level than these little bouncing areas in here. When setting price targets, the bigger levels that we need to watch are at the top and the bottom of these zones, right? So say this, we use this zone here. It uses support down here at 390.365 area and this resistance here. So we can notice that it trades in this zone a little bit more. And we don't really have to worry about, these zones here in between, because in the really, like, the big picture, it's going to bounce in between the bottoms and the tops of the zones ultimately for our bigger moves. And that really goes into play when setting our key levels, our triggers, and looking for price targets, is not worrying about these little moves in between, these little I can't speak English. These little moves in between, when the big picture is the tops and the bottom of these zones that really play a big role in determining where a big move's coming or where this ticker is going. So, that's kind of my thought process here on just building a watch list, what goes into it, and how flow can really, really, really narrow down our really, really narrow down and help us to decide on these 3 to 5 tickers and not try to process all this information, all these different tickers. We can just use those 3 to 5 to really, really get a good sense of their price action, and it can really help with trading and with our trading.